Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. The night it began, the sea forgot how to breathe. Not slowly, not like a tide quietly shrinking back into itself. It stopped, all at once, on the coast of Aoyama. A quiet village built from driftwood, stone, and the long memories of fishermen. The ocean froze. Not like ice, not like winter, but like a dream that refused to change scenes. Waves lay flat as hammered silver beneath the moon, unwrinkled and unmoving. Boats that normally rocked gently at their moorings rested still, as if held in soft, invisible hands. Seabirds circled overhead, confused, their wings catching moonshine that no longer shimmered on water, only mirrored back like cold glass. The villagers gathered in silence. They whispered, but even whispers felt loud in that air. "Has it ever stopped?" a woman asked, clutching her shawl. "No," an old fisherman murmured, his eyes almost frightened. "Not even in the longest winters. Waves are born even when storms sleep. Tonight, nothing was born. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Only light existed. Moonlight stretched endlessly across a sea that looked less like water and more like memory. Among the crowd stood a girl of 17, hair dark as wet sand and eyes wide, reflecting the motionless horizon too clearly. Her name was Hannah. She had salt in her blood and tide in her heart. She felt it even now, pulsing restlessly beneath her ribs, though the ocean no longer matched its rhythm. Her father once told her, "Waves are the ocean's heartbeat. When they stop, the world holds its breath." He used to say it on nights when the sea roared with black fury, when storms cracked open the sky and lightning stitched fire across the water. He would laugh, not cruelly, but like one who respected something vast enough to kill him. And it had. 3 years ago, on a night of heavy rain and restless tides, Hannah's father never returned. The sea swallowed his boat whole and gave nothing back. Since then, the villagers left fewer offerings. Prayers became shorter, voices more cautious. The sea remained, but trust did not. Perhaps that was why no one dared approach tonight. But Hannah did. She stepped forward until cool sand met her bare feet. Lantern light softened behind her, and still water stretched ahead, silent as something holding its last thought. The surface reflected the moon perfectly, as if the sky had fallen and settled there. She whispered, not intending anyone to hear, "You're too quiet," as if the ocean might answer. Of course it didn't. Not yet. The second night was worse. On the first night, the stillness felt strange. On the second, it felt wrong. Hannah couldn't sleep. The walls of her small room were lined with dried lavender and old fishing knots her father once used to teach her how tides pull nets. Every object reminded her of movement, the kind that no longer existed. She rose before dawn. The house was dark. Aunt Mio slept lightly in the next room, breath slow and measured, the way she always breathed since the storm that took Hannah's father. It was the breathing of someone afraid to dream too deeply. Hannah slipped out quietly, carrying a lantern and something she had not touched in months. A small wooden box. Inside lay her father's net-mending needle, curved and polished smooth by years of salt and work. Felt heavy in her hand, heavier than memory alone. When she reached the shore, she gasped. The ocean looked exactly as she left it, still like stone, clear like obsidian, soft as sleep. But now, the silence felt deeper, like layers beneath layers, like the sea itself was wrapped in dream-thick blankets. Even the smell of salt had faded. Hannah stood at the water's edge and knelt slowly, as though bowing to a shrine. She touched the surface. Warm, too warm, like fever, like someone sleeping too long. The sea should have been cold at dawn, sharp with morning breeze, but there was no breeze. The air held stillness like a sealed jar. Hannah placed the wooden box beside her and whispered, "I don't know if you can hear me, but if you're sleeping." Her throat tightened. "You might be dreaming." The moment she said it, she felt foolish, but not enough to stop. Her father once told her it was possible for oceans to dream themselves into stillness when too much pain echoed in their waves. He called it the long sleep, a legend older than the village itself. He said it once lasted 50 years, and during that time, fishermen rode out onto water like glass and found nothing beneath it. No fish, no current, no life. He said the sea only wakes when someone reminds it why it should. Hannah inhaled. Slow, steady. Her voice carried gently across the unmoving surface. She hummed. Not a song she remembered from others. A song she built from memory and loss. From tides that once rocked her to sleep. From laughter that vanished into foam. Her voice rose and fell, and though the water did not move, something beneath her skin did, as if an invisible tide within her was answering itself. She sang until her voice cracked. She leaned forward, forehead nearly touching the mirrored surface. And then, her reflection blinked. Hannah's heart slammed against her ribs. She froze, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. Her reflected face blinked again. Only her real eyelids did not. Hannah shook, a slow tremor that spread through her shoulders into her hands. She had seen strange things in stormlight before, but never this. Reflections were supposed to mimic. Shadow, not soul. But this reflection turned its head slightly, studying her with eyes that looked deeper. Not into Hannah, but through her, beyond her, as if she were a doorway and not a person. "Who?" she whispered. The reflection smiled faintly. Not her smile. Something older. Ocean old. Tide-shaped. And when it finally spoke, it did not use a voice made of sound. It used one made of memory. "Do you hear me?" Hannah flinched. The words did not enter through her ears. They drifted into her mind like waves washing over stone. "I hear you," she whispered aloud, voice trembling. "Are you?" She swallowed. "The sea." The reflection blinked, slow, like moonlight sinking beneath horizon. "I am what sleeps beneath your reflection." Its voice layered itself over silence. Not loud, but vast. "You call me ocean. You call me sea. But names given by fear are not names I answer." Hannah's pulse quickened. "What name do you answer to?" The reflection leaned closer, and for a moment, Hannah felt cold beneath her ribs, like deep water brushing bone. "The name you have forgotten." Windless air pressed around her. Lantern light trembled though there was no breeze. Hannah whispered, barely audible, "Why won't you move?" The ocean's dream face darkened with something like sadness. "Because you stopped speaking to me. Because storms frightened you. because grief silenced prayer, because you forgot how to love me without wanting me tame. Hannah's vision blurred, tears hot against cold night. We lost people, she said. We lost him. She touched the net needle inside the wooden box. My father loved you, and you took him. The reflection lowered its gaze, the sea remembering itself. I took him because he entered my mouth during a storm he did not respect. I took him because he trusted his boat more than he trusted me. I kept him because memory belongs to tide. Hannah's chest broke open with silent pain. The sea whispered softer, but I also sang him to rest, where waves cradle the bones of ships and men. I held his last breath like a pearl. I remember him still. Salt stung Hannah's lips, not from sea spray, but from tears. She closed her eyes. If you remember him, she whispered, then remember us. Wake. Silence fell, heavy as a deep current. The reflection met her gaze with ancient weight. Cannot wake for one voice. I sleep because many chose silence. Many must choose speech again. Hannah bowed her head. She understood. The ocean did not need worship. It needed memory. It needed names spoken aloud without fear. She inhaled, slow like tide returning, and whispered, "Tell me your name. I will carry it." The reflection shimmered, faint ripple beneath dream surface. Uyanoumi, the ocean that remembers. Hannah tasted the word, felt like salt, felt like grief, felt like home, and the moment she said it back, Uyanoumi, the water beneath her fingers pulsed once. Not with wave, with heartbeat. The village of Aoyama woke to a sky without wind. Clouds hung like distant memories. Thin, quiet, unmoving. The air tasted flat, like tea left too long in a cold cup. Children padded barefoot through streets that smelled faintly of old salt and damp rope. But even their footsteps sounded muted, swallowed by the same stillness that lay heavy across the sea. Hannah walked among them slowly, every movement deliberate, as though sound itself might shatter something fragile. Only one thing inside her was not quiet. Uyanoumi. The name pulsed through her veins like distant thunder, soft but steady, calling her deeper into something she did not yet understand. She kept her father's net needle wrapped in cloth, tucked inside her sleeve. She touched it often now, the way a child reaches for a charm, not because it protects them, but because it reminds them they are not alone. When she arrived at the harbor, fishermen were already gathered, though they no longer spoke of tides or catch. They sat on overturned crates, sharpening knives they did not expect to use, repairing nets that would not fill, arguing softly about things that did not matter, like weather, like taxes, like how silence had become normal. Hannah stepped between them quietly. Some noticed her. Some pretended not to. Some looked through her the way people look through grief that does not belong to them. A few nodded, distant, polite, but none spoke first. She inhaled and faced the still horizon. The ocean looked like a sleeping giant, beautiful but heavy, dangerous but dreaming. Its surface held the moon from last night like a memory that refused to fade. Hannah lifted her chin and said aloud, clear enough for the morning to hear, "Uyanoumi." A fisherman dropped a knife. Another froze, half-folding a net. Hannah continued, steady as heartbeat. That is its name. The one we forgot. The one we must remember. Silence answered her. But it was not the same silence as before. It was listening, slowly, like a shadow revealing itself. An old man stepped forward. His beard was white with salt, his hands not scarred and strong. Hannah knew him well enough to nod. Jiro, once her father's closest friend. He leaned heavily on his cane and eyed her with something between sorrow and warning. "You speak like one who wants the sea to return," he murmured. "I do," Hannah said. "You want the storms back too?" She did not look away. "I want breath back. Storms are breath, just like calm." The windless air trembled, not with sound, but with thought. Jiro exhaled through his teeth, a weary hiss. "Your father spoke like that. Brave, foolish, salt-hearted." Then he thundered, voice sharper than any knife. "Look what it cost him." Hannah flinched but did not step back. "He died in living tides," she said. "Better that than this." She gestured to the dead flat sea, a mirror that reflected everything, but returned nothing. Jiro's jaw tightened. And if remembering wakes storms stronger than before? If Uyanoomi comes angry for years of silence? Hannah held his gaze. "Then we stand. We speak. We live beside it, not above it. We are not its masters." Her voice softened. "We're its memory." A murmur rose among the fishermen, not approval or agreement, but something like recognition, like old muscle remembering how to flex. But recognition was not enough. Hannah knew what she had to do next. She needed a witness, a child, a seed for future tide. At the edge of the pier, sitting cross-legged with feet dangling inches above unmoving water, was a boy no more than 8. He held a toy boat carved from driftwood, smooth with years of thumb and worry. Hannah approached slowly. "May I sit?" she asked. He nodded without looking away from the sea. "My mother says the waves are gone because the sea is angry," he murmured. "Maybe," Hannah said gently, "or maybe it's just lonely." The boy blinked. "Lonely?" Hannah stretched out her hand above the thick glass surface. "When something moves its whole life and then stops," she whispered, "it doesn't mean it wants peace. It might mean it wants someone to notice." She said the name again, soft but certain. "Uyanoomi." The boy repeated it, halting, curious. "Uyanoomi." At that moment the sea did not move, not even a tremor. Yet Hannah felt something shift. Inside her, inside him, inside the silence. A seed planted. A voice returned. "The first drop of rain never feels like rain, but the second does." The village would resist her. Hannah knew. Grief was a strong anchor, safety an even stronger chain. If she wanted Uyanoomi awake, she needed more than one whispered name. She needed hearts, voices, breath. So she walked, house to house, stall to stall, shrine to shrine. She spoke the name like prayer and apology. Uyanoomi. She carried it like a lantern into dark corners where salt memories slept beneath dust. She reminded elders of summers where waves cooled their skin and children danced among tide pools. She reminded widows that storms were not thieves, just wild messengers delivering what life rarely gives. Motion. Most turned away. Some shut doors. Some spat and cursed her father's ghost. But a few listened. A few let her words settle like small shells in hand. Aunt Mio was one. That evening, She sat across from Hannah in their dim-lit home, hands wrapped around a cup of tea that no longer steamed. "You spoke its name to others," Mio said quietly. "Yes. You think it's waiting for us to call. I know it is." Mio studied her long, the way one studies a wave unsure if it will rise or break. "You're your father's child," she whispered. Hannah's breath faltered. "He said I was too much like my mother." "Both," Mio corrected softly. She reached across the table and took Hannah's trembling hand. "The ocean took the man who raised you," she said. "But you would still offer it your voice." Hannah nodded. "I would." Mio squeezed once, firm as anchor rope. "Then I offer mine too." That night, for the first time in 3 years, two voices called the ocean by its name. Not in fear, in remembrance. Uyanoumi, Uyanoumi. And somewhere deep beneath star-drowned water, beneath dream and pulse and hunger and sleep, a single wave twitched, not seen, only felt. 3 days passed. 3 dawns arrived gray and tired, as if the sky itself missed the taste of wind. Boats remained tied, unmoving, wells lowered by inches. Lanterns burned shorter because the oil shipments from the next port could not cross a silent sea. Aoyama was breathing, but shallowly, like someone who dreams with clenched fists. Yet something else was breathing too. It stirred beneath the waves, slow and ancient. Not movement, not wave, memory. A memory with a name. Uyanoumi. And Hannah felt it with every step. Her pulse no longer matched her heartbeat. It matched something larger, deeper. Some nights, when she closed her eyes, she swore she could feel a pulse under the sand, as if the earth, too, remembered tides. The villagers felt something shifting as well. They glanced toward the water more often. They spoke of old storms and lost summers with voices that did not tremble as much. They slept with windows cracked open, waiting for salt breeze even though none came. They were listening, but listening was not enough. Someone needed to speak louder. And so Hannah returned to the shore on the 4th night. Moonlight stretched across the unmoving sea like white silk rolled flat. Hannah knelt at the edge as she had before, the wooden box beside her, the net needle inside like a heartbeat she carried. She whispered the name, Uyanoumi. Her reflection rippled, not from wind, but from awareness. Slowly, as if rising from the deepest floor of the world, the other face appeared beneath hers. Older, weather-worn, beautiful in a way no human could be. Eyes like deep water, hair like moon-streaked foam, a mouth that curved like waves when they are gentle and like storms when they are not. It spoke not aloud. Inside her mind, "You carry my name well." Hannah's voice wavered. Some heard me. Some spoke it back. The water darkened, then brightened like a slow breath. "Names are seeds," Uyanoumi said. "Some fall on stone, some on soil. It is not wind that makes them grow, but time." Hannah swallowed. "I'm afraid we don't have time." Uyanoumi looked at her gently. A tide that did not pity, only understood. "You fear drought." "We are already close," Hannah whispered. "The wells are lower. The air is drier. The clouds travel past us like we have become invisible to them." The reflection blinked once, solemn. "Then call again." Hannah clenched her fists. "I've tried. Voices are few. Fear is many. The reflection leaned closer, as though the sea itself were pressing against an unseen boundary. Fear is taught, Unnatural murmured. Memory is born. Hannah exhaled, slow, steady. Then help me wake them. The reflection's expression changed, a shift subtle as tide. No longer dream soft, but storm deep. Very well. Then you must see what sleep looks like from within. Before Hannah could breathe, the water beneath her hand turned cold. Not gently, but sharply, like iron plunged into snow. Her reflection deepened, and for a moment she saw beneath it wrecked timbers tangled with seaweed, bones of boats the sea once carried like children, shapes that shimmered like memories, not bodies. Her father's face among them, not dead, but dreaming. Hannah gasped. Her heart broke open in one long ache. What is this? Unnatural voice was everywhere. In her lungs, in her spine, in the sand beneath her knees. I do not hoard your dead. I hold them. Storms take, but tide remembers. Your father sleeps in me. Not lost, held. Hannah's vision blurred with tears. She reached toward the reflection, fingers trembling, wanting to touch, to feel, to pull memory through water like thread through cloth. But the reflection faded. Dreams submerged. Hannah was left kneeling, breathing like someone pulled from deep current, chest tight, heart louder than silence. She might have stayed there if not for the air. The wind, faint as whisper, brushed her cheek. Not enough to move hair or lantern flame, yet enough to be real. Hannah stood, eyes fixed on the horizon. The surface did not ripple. The tides did not rise. But far out, where moonlight thinned to darkness, something lifted, a swell, small as a whispered apology. But there, Hannah's knees weakened. She had not seen water move in 4 nights. Her breath hitched. Unnatural. The swell faded before reaching shore. But it had formed. The ocean was remembering itself. At dawn, Hannah did not return home. She walked directly to the shrine. Priests were lighting incense, their heads bowed in ritual habit, asking for blessings the sea no longer granted. Their prayers had become emptier with each tide that did not come. Hannah stepped between them. You are praying to silence, she said. Not cruel, only true. The eldest priest looked up, eyes clouded with age like waves under winter ice. And you sing to storms, he replied. Dangerous things. Hannah met his gaze steadily. So is forgetting. She told them everything, her reflected encounter, the name, the flicker of wave. Some priests scoffed, some trembled. One wept quietly behind his sleeves. It was enough. People began to gather, fishers, children, widows, skeptics. A circle formed around Hannah like sand around a stone. She did not step backward. She stood tall. Her voice carried like lantern light cutting fog. Unnatural. Some repeated it. Not all. Not enough. But more than yesterday. And more would come tomorrow. The first rain arrived, soft, hesitant, forgiving. And Aoyama's long silence changed. Morning arrived with a sky the color of pearl, pale, soft, but tinged with something new. Not brightness, not storm, expectation. Hannah stepped outside before the temple bells, before the fishermen returned to measure their emptiness. before the old women began boiling water for bitter tea. She felt the air shift, as if someone had touched the world's breath and reminded it to move. No wind yet, but possibility. She walked to the shore barefoot, to feel the sand speak. There was no sound beneath her feet, only the memory of waves that should have been there, waiting to rise and fall like a heartbeat. The ocean lay flat as polished obsidian, reflecting a sky that did not know whether to remain silent or to bloom. But Hannah knew. A wave was coming. Not a storm, a beginning. She knelt where she had spoken nights before, where her reflection had answered, where she first felt the sea awaken like a sleeping lung pulling its first breath. Hannah placed her palm on the cold surface. It twitched. She caught her breath, the way someone does when a hand they thought turned to stone suddenly squeezes back. "You know me," she whispered, not calling this time, but greeting. The water warmed under her hand, like skin stirring from dream into waking. Then a pulse, deep, slow, eternal. The first tide in years moved beneath her, not rising fully, but shifting like a giant rolling in its sleep. A small wave lifted and fell gently against the shore, no louder than a sigh. But to Hannah it thundered. It was the first sound of ocean breath she had heard since childhood. She covered her mouth with trembling fingers and laughed, not from joy alone, but from the ache of remembering how happiness feels. The sea had answered, but she was not alone on the shore anymore. Behind her, voices gasped. "Hannah!" She turned. A group of villagers stood frozen at the edge of sand. Men with nets across their shoulders, children clutching driftwood toys, elders leaning forward as though afraid to believe what they saw. The second wave rolled in unmistakable. Not large, not dangerous, alive. The children ran forward, squealing, feet splashing into water that kissed ankles like an old friend returning home. But the adults did not smile. Not all of them. Jiro stepped through the crowd like a shadow given shape by grief. He stared at the tide as though it were a wound reopening, hope, but also pain. "It moved," he whispered. Hannah nodded. "It remembered." Jiro's eyes darkened like storm clouds not yet formed. "Or it woke hungry." She did not flinch. Living things hunger. Only dead seas starve. Some villagers murmured agreement. Others pulled their children back as though the water would bite. The ocean rolled again, this time slightly higher, enough to leave silver foam like lace upon the shore. Hannah knelt and let the foam touch her skin. "It's gentle," she said, but Jiro shook his head. "You speak like faith. I have lived long enough to know gentleness is only the first shape of storms." Hannah stood slowly. "Storms are not enemies. Waves drown my wife." Jiro's voice cracked like old timber. "Storms sank your father's boat." Hannah's throat tightened, but she stepped closer, not away. "My father died alive," she said. "Not in stillness, not in silence, not in forgetting." Jiro trembled, the kind of trembling that comes not from anger, but from the pain of remembering love. Behind him, voices rose, some fearful, some hopeful. Oyama had split. Half wanted the sea awake, half wanted it forever still. And Uyanoumi listened. For the third wave came, not large but heavy with purpose. It spread across the shore like a hand extended, reaching. Hannah stepped forward instinctively, but Jiro grabbed her arm. "If you walk into it, you become its bride," he hissed. "I have seen the ocean take devotion like dowry." She met his eyes, soft, unshaken. "I don't want to marry the sea." Jiro blinked. "I want to speak with it." She slipped free. The villagers gasped as she waded in, water cold but pulsing like a living throat beneath her feet. Each step felt like entering memory, thick, slow, dreaming, up to her knees, up to her waist. The world held its breath. Then the sea rose, not violently, but decisively, water lifting around her like arms. Her reflection appeared again, not sleeping this time, awake. "Hannah," said her name aloud, not in her mind, not in dream. The ocean spoke through wave and breath and hush. The sound shaped like thunder slowed into language. The villagers fell to their knees. Some prayed, some screamed, some simply wept. Uyanomi's voice filled Hannah like tide filling shore. "The village remembers me, but remembrance is not enough. Dream must become choice." Hannah swallowed, barely breathing. "What do you ask?" The water brightened, not light, but shimmer, as though moon and sun breathed together beneath the surface. "One must enter the dream beneath the waves. One must wake me fully from within." Hannah's pulse staggered. "You want me to go down?" she breathed. "Not to drown," the ocean replied, "but to dream deeper than breath." Jiro lurched forward, voice breaking. "No, I will not watch another child vanish into salt." Hannah turned to him, calm as tide returning. "I will not vanish. You don't know that." She stepped closer to the water's heart. "No," she said softly, "but I know this silence is a slower death." Jiro fell silent, broken not by defeat, but by truth. Hannah faced the sea again. "The dream waits," Uyanomi whispered, the waves rising like an inhale that had been held for years too long. "Come when you are ready. Not tonight, but soon." The waves lowered gently, releasing her like a promise rather than a threat. Hannah returned to shore soaked in moonlight and foam. Children touched her dress like she had returned from somewhere far away. Mothers watched her with fear they wished was faith. Fishermen stared at the water as though hearing an old rhythm under their ribs. The tides had moved. The sea had spoken. And Aoyama stood at the doorway of a dream no village had entered for generations. Hannah knew what came next. She would need to go under, not to die, but to wake what slept beneath memory. Night came without stars. Clouds gathered like great herds across the sky, low and silver-backed, hiding the moon as though the heavens wished no witness for what would happen next. Torches burned along Aoyama's narrow stone paths, trembling in hands that still tasted of fear more than faith. Hannah sat alone by the shore. She had eaten little. Sleep had not come. Her thoughts ebbed and flowed like the waves that once ruled her childhood and now waited like held breath. In her hand lay her father's needle, the thin steel curved like moon and fishing hook both. She rubbed it between thumb and finger the way one rubs a prayer bead. Behind her, footsteps, slow, measured. Mio knelt beside her, offering silence first, a gift more valuable now than comfort. "You are leaving tonight," her aunt finally said, voice low, warm. Hannah nodded. "The ocean asked." Mio exhaled like tide receding. Then I will not stop you. A pause. But others might try. Hannah looked over her shoulder, toward the village, where lanterns flickered like hesitant stars. Some windows were dark, doors latched for safety. Others leaked pale orange light like watchful eyes. People did not sleep. People listened. Some prayed she would succeed. Some prayed she would change her mind. Mio took Hannah's hands gently. If you go, go as yourself. Not as their hope. Not as their fear. As Hannah, daughter of sea and memory. Hannah bit back tears, a wave behind eyelids. I don't know if I'm enough. No one ever does. Mio smiled sadly. That is why we leap. She placed something in Hannah's palm. A braided cord, soft from years of wear. Your mother wore this during storms, she whispered, to remember what not even lightning could take. Hannah held the cord to her heart. Wind moved, faint as eyelash breath. The sea waited. So did everything beneath it. The descent. Hannah stepped into the water. Not with fear, with reverence. It wrapped around her ankles cool, then cold, then startlingly warm, as though the sea changed temperature with each heartbeat she offered. The moon slipped through the clouds for one brief moment, laying silver across the horizon like path or invitation. She took another step, knee-deep, waist-deep, chest-deep. The surface shimmered, not reflecting light but swallowing it. The ocean pulled her gently, not like wave dragging prey, but like dream drawing sleeper deeper into itself. Children watched from dunes. Elders clutched prayer beads too tightly. Mothers pressed hands over their mouths to keep from calling her back. Jiro stood apart from them all, sandal deep in sand, jaw set not in anger, but in helpless love. Hannah! He cried once. She turned, water to her shoulders, hair floating like ink. Come back, he said, voice cracking like wave on cliff. There may be no return. Hannah smiled soft. Sure. I will come back changed, she said. But returning and remaining are different things. Jiro wept without sound. Hannah sank. Silence swallowed her like velvet, soft, cool, absolute. The world above vanished. No moon, no night, only water thick as dream, heavy with memory. She did not drown. She breathed, not with lungs, but with something older, deeper. Her heartbeat slowed, then matched the rhythm she felt beneath sand and wave. Uyanoumi. The water carried her downward, not pushing, guiding. Lights shimmered below, not bright like sun or fire, but like thought. Pale threads pulsing outward as though woven through the sea itself. She descended through them like drifting feather. Voices echoed, not words, memories. Laughter beneath summer rain. Hands pulling nets heavy with silver-scaled fish. Storm wind roaring like gods singing. Then, screams. Sinking wood. Splintered masts. Bubbles blooming like broken prayers. Her father's voice, distant, muffled. Hannah! She reached toward it, but memory flowed through her fingers like water. Another pulse answered, slow as tides through centuries. Uyanoumi, the dream sea world. Her feet touched seafloor, sand soft as clouds, light rippling through water like moon breathing through silk. Schools of dreamfish drifted past, bodies made of pearl light and memory instead of flesh. And there, rising like mountain or god, stood an ancient torii gate half buried in coral. Its red paint had turned black-blue under years of tide sleep. Paper talismans floated around it like jellyfish, glowing faintly with each pulse of ocean consciousness. This was the gate between breath and dream. Hannah stepped through. Water thickened into something else, not liquid, not air. Dreams, she realized, were neither. The world opened. Not ocean floor. A temple carved from storm and moonlight, pillars rising like frozen waves. Roof made of rippling water that never fell. Lanterns hung from invisible beams. Blue flames burning inside them like memory given shape. And in the center, a woman made of sea. Hair like wet night. Skin like pearl. Eyes like whirlpools remembering centuries. Uyanoumi. Awake but not fully. Dreaming but conscious. The goddess turned. You came. Her voice trembled through water and bone both. I did, Hannah said. To wake you. The sea woman stepped closer. Footsteps not disturbing sand beneath them. To wake me, you must learn what sleep protects. She lifted a hand and the dream world shifted. Storms unfurled across unseen skies. Villages were washed away. People cried out. Boats shattered like bone. Lightning burned horizon edges white-hot. Hannah staggered. Why show me this? So you know what waking unleashes. Images rippled again, now gentle, tender. Children laughing in tide pools. Lovers walking along waves at dusk. Fishermen singing to dawn. Her father lifting her onto his shoulders so she could touch star-reflected sea. Her breath broke. Why show me this? So you know what sleeping destroys. Hannah trembled, heart split between costs of silence and costs of storm. You want me to choose, she whispered. Uyanoumi nodded, slow tide motion. To wake me or let me dream forever. Hannah closed her eyes. She remembered Aoyama hungry, fields cracking, lanterns burning low, children who never learned the sound of waves. She remembered her father's voice like thunder and lullaby both. She remembered herself. Her breath became tide. I choose, she whispered. Uyanoumi waited, infinite patience of waves against stone. I choose life, Hannah said, even if it comes with storms. The sea woman's gaze warmed, fierce, mournful, proud. Then wake me. Water rose around Hannah like veil or wing. Ribbons of moonlight twisted through her hair. The temple shook, gently at first, then like heartbeat returning after too long stillness. Waves began to pulse. Not dream waves, real ones. Above, far above. Hannah felt them as if they were her own ribs expanding. Uyanoumi lifted her hand. To wake me fully, you must leave the dream carrying more than memory. She stepped closer, palm to Hannah's chest. You must carry my tide. Hannah gasped, water flowing through her veins like dawn flooding horizon. Her body felt weightless, luminous, greater than itself. She could hear waves forming miles above. She could feel wind growing like inhale becoming word. She did not drown. She became water, and the ocean opened its eyes. Light shattered through dream world like sunrise breaking shell. Hannah burst toward the surface. Not swimming, rising as if the sea itself lifted her like its own voice. The villagers saw the water surge upward like mountain rising, but held, not crushing. Then Hannah broke the surface, hair streaming like tide, eyes glowing like moon inside storm. water swirling around her but not drowning her, embracing like prophecy. A gasp rippled across Aoyama. She did not walk back to shore. The sea carried her, and when her feet touched sand, the waves behind her did not fall silent. They spoke. Low thunder, returning tide, heartbeat of a world reawakening. The first true wave in years rose, tall, shining, powerful, but broke gently at her heels, as if bowing. The village knelt, not to Hannah, but to what moved through her. Stormlight glowed behind clouds. The ocean was awake, and it remembered its voice. For the first time in years, the ocean breathed. Not softly, but fully. Not as mirror, but as memory. Waves rolled in long, alive, like a heart relearning its rhythm. The sea glittered under a sky where clouds were breaking open to light. Each wave that reached the sand sounded like a pulse returning to a body thought long asleep. Aoyama stood before Hannah, silent, stunned. Some faces glowed with wonder. Some quivered with fear. Some looked upon her as if she were both girl and tide, mortal and memory at once. Hannah, still knee-deep in the surf, felt neither triumph nor power, only connection. She was a bridge between flesh and wave, breath and dream. The ocean moved through her like thought, yet she stood firm like shore. The water beside her rose and fell as though sinking itself to her lungs. Inhale, exhale, wave. Wind stirred at last, gentle, hesitant, like a child taking its first step after years unable to stand. It brushed through Hannah's hair, ruffling salt-wet strands with playful fingers. The villagers gasped, a sound sharp with joy, grief, disbelief. Wind meant storms could return. Storms meant life could return. Life meant change. Hannah stepped forward. The sea released her, no longer holding, no longer needing to carry. Waves rose behind her like guardians, not chains. She walked onto sand, dripping moonlit water that glowed faintly with each footstep. Jiro approached first. His face was wet, from waves or tears she could not tell. He searched her eyes for something he feared to name, loss or miracle. "You survived," he whispered. Hannah shook her head. "I didn't survive, I woke." Jiro exhaled like anchor dropping from a ship's bow, heavy, freeing. "Then the sea," Hannah finished gently, "remembers." For a moment no one spoke. Children stared with wide wonder. Mothers clutched them close as if awe could sweep them away. The ocean murmured behind Hannah, waves folding like warm breath against the shore. Not threat, welcome. High voltage, a returning storm. By evening, clouds massed along the horizon, dark and gold-backed like sleeping thunder. Villagers hurried to tie boats, shutter doors, reinforce roofs. Even celebration carried the tremble of old fear. Jiro approached Hannah quietly. "We woke the sea," he said, "but storms may follow." Hannah faced the wind. "Storms are breath," she replied. Silence was death. Lightning flared across the clouds, bright but not violent. No thunder followed. The sky was waiting, listening. Hannah walked into the waves, ankle-deep, then knee-deep, no fear, only understanding. She raised her voice like lantern light across dark water. "Storms are not punishment. They are memory moving. We asked the ocean to return. Now we must return to it." The storm broke, not into rage, but into rain. Soft, slow, blessing-like. Children ran laughing beneath it. Women opened their palms like offering bowls. Jiro closed his eyes and let salt water wash grief from his face. The sea did not destroy. It breathed. Water wave what the tide returned. At dawn, the beach was littered not with wreckage, but memory. Pearl-shelled ornaments, nets woven of moonlight and dream thread, fragments of boats lost long ago, and among them, a lantern, cracked, salt-worn, its flame long dead. Hannah fell to her knees. She knew this lantern, her father's. The ocean placed it gently at her feet, like apology, like promise. Hannah lifted it with trembling hands, pressing her forehead against it. A voice rose through the tide like a dream she once lived. Little tide, you grew. Hannah sobbed, full, raw, breaking open. I never stopped looking for you, she whispered. The waves answered low, tender. I never left. Not resurrection, not ghost, presence. Hannah held the lantern to her chest, no longer as relic, but inheritance. She did not need the sea to give him back. She needed only that it remembered, and it did. Sun, the choice of tomorrow. 1 week passed. Fish returned in shining abundance. Birds nested along cliffs. The market thrived like a wound healing from inside. But life requires choice, not miracle. Villagers gathered before newly living waves, their feet in tide foam, their future in balance. Hannah stood before them, not leader, not priestess. Voice. We cannot hold the sea still again, she told them. We live with tide, not above it. Jiro stepped beside her. And with storm, he added. Slowly, like tide advancing, people nodded. One by one they spoke the name, Uyanoumi, not in fear, in belonging. The ocean answered with a wave that rolled far up the shore, gentle, enormous, alive. Aoyama had chosen future over sleep. Sunrise final breath. That night, Hannah sat at the shoreline alone, not as sacrifice, as kin. The ocean rested its waves around her legs like folded wings. Above her, stars shimmered like distant lanterns reflected in black water. She breathed. The sea breathed back. Perfect rhythm. Perfect peace. Thank you for remembering me, Hannah whispered. A warm wave answered like a heartbeat returned. Thank you for waking me. And far beneath the reflection, a lantern flickered, not broken, but reborn. The dream was awake. The ocean breathed, and Aoyama slept to waves again.